right, let's get right into it. We're talking about a company that has just completely shaken the global auto industry. I mean, one minute they're this unstoppable champion, right? And the next, well, they're facing these really serious questions that could honestly unravel the whole thing. It's the wild, complicated story of BYD.
I mean, just look at these numbers. In what, just 36 months, some of the biggest, most established names in the car world have watched their profits just completely crater. We're talking Mercedes-Benz down 28%, Porsche 92%, Stellantis a $26 billion loss. It's a bloodbath. And the name behind all this carnage? BYD, a company that sold over 3 million cars last year alone. They're not just playing the game, they're completely rewriting the rules.
So you gotta ask, right? How did this even happen? How does a company that not too long ago was just making batteries for old flip phones suddenly become the new king of the car world, forcing absolute giants to their knees?
Well, the official story, the one they tell everyone, sounds like pure genius. It's all about this three-pronged attack. First, this thing called vertical integration. So while a company like Volkswagen is juggling hundreds of different suppliers, BYD just decided, you know what? We'll build everything ourselves. Everything. Then they perfected their own Blade battery, which was cheaper and, they claimed, way safer than anything else on the market. And the final piece? Massive. And I mean massive. State support. We're talking an estimated $4.3 billion in direct government money in just 5 years. Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. As BYD starts expanding all over the globe, that perfect, flawless image is starting to get some serious cracks. And the first signs of trouble, they aren't coming from their competitors. Nope, they're coming from their own cars, in the form of huge recalls. So back in October 2025, BYD puts out its biggest recall ever. We're talking more than 115,000 cars. Officially, they said it was for things like faulty motor controllers and bad battery seals, things that could let water leak in. But this wasn't just some minor hiccup. This recall basically blew the doors wide open to some much, much deeper questions about the tech at the very heart of the company. Okay, so let's dig into that technology. Let's talk about the Blade battery. I mean, this is the very foundation of BYD's success. And you'll see how this single piece of tech builds into a much more complicated picture. I mean, listen to BYD's own marketing. They call it the safest energy storage technology in human history. They got famous for this viral video, this nail penetration test, where they literally hammered a nail right through the battery just to prove it wouldn't explode or catch fire. This sold the entire world on this idea of absolute, total safety. But then, this one report comes out, and it's an absolute bombshell. It alleges this core flaw, this total nightmare scenario they call the silent cascade. And the claim is wild, that under just normal stress, these tiny microscopic fractures can form, causing the battery cells to literally start to liquefy. There's no fire, there's no explosion, just this slow simmering meltdown from the inside that completely bypasses all the safety systems. So this alleged flaw leads to something owners are calling the ghost train anomaly. Picture this. You park your car overnight with a full charge, you come back in the morning, and the battery is totally dead. It's supposedly this dark current leak happening because of those tiny fractures. And what makes this all even worse? Reports are claiming that BYD is secretly pushing out software updates to slow down charging and limit the voltage, basically crippling the car's performance just to stop it from having a meltdown. And you can see these technical concerns pop up in places like owner forums. I mean, just look at the maintenance schedules. The differences are kind of shocking. A BYD Sea Lion needs new spark plugs every 20,000 kilometers. A Prius every 90,000. The battery coolant needs to be replaced every 2 years. On competitor cars, that's something you barely ever have to think about. It all points to a car that's just really, really high maintenance. But okay, the questions don't just stop with the tech. They go way deeper, right to the very heart of the company's money and their incredible sales numbers. So get this, a financial research firm called GMT Research just drops an absolute bombshell. BYD's official books, they report a pretty manageable debt, around 28 billion yuan. But GMT alleges the company is hiding its real debt and that the true number is closer to 323 billion yuan. That's not a small difference. That's almost 12 times higher. So the big question is, right, how do you even hide that much debt? Well, one way, according to this report, is by just not paying your suppliers. The industry average to pay your bills is around 60 days. BYD, they take an average of 275 days. Think about that. They're basically forcing their own suppliers to be their secret zero-interest bank. And then there's this claim about something called zero-mileage ghost cars. To keep up this image of unstoppable growth, reports allege that dealerships are under so much pressure to hit these crazy sales targets that they register thousands of new cars to fake shell companies. So on paper, the car is sold, but in reality, no one ever buys it. They're just driven straight from the factory and left to rot in these huge empty lots. And if you peel back yet another layer of this story, you find what might be the most troubling part of it all: the very real human cost of all this crazy fast expansion. It seems like everywhere they go, from a construction site in Brazil to a new factory in Hungary, this really disturbing pattern of allegations just keeps popping up. I mean, in December 2024, authorities in Brazil literally had to rescue 163 workers from what they described as slavery-like conditions. Then, just a little over a year later, a labor rights group claims that pretty much the same thing is happening at BYD's brand new factory in Europe. So, according to these investigators and watchdog groups, here's what was happening. Workers were facing these brutal 12 to 14-hour shifts 7 days a week. It's alleged they had their passports taken away, their pay was withheld until they got back to China, and they were trapped by these insane recruitment fees that basically put them in debt bondage. They were trapped. So, okay, let's step back. What do you actually have when you put all these different pieces of the puzzle together? Is this really an unstoppable titan? Or is it something way more fragile?
Well, what it looks like is a potential perfect storm brewing, right? You've got these fundamental questions about the core technology. You have these really serious allegations of financial funny business. You've got multiple serious ethical scandals. And on top of all that, it's starting to slam into these huge geopolitical walls, like 100% tariffs in the US and new rules in Europe. And, while it's the old school car companies that are bleeding out right now, they're not really the main event here. The real fight is between two totally different ways of doing things. You've got BYD on one side, a state-backed hardware giant that just wants to pump out huge volumes of cars. And on the other side, you have Tesla, which, let's be honest, isn't really a car company anymore. It's an AI, robotics, and energy company that just happens to put its technology on wheels. And here's the final kind of ironic twist that just shows you how different this game really is. Tesla is doing something that is just ruthlessly brilliant. They are actually buying the cheap government-subsidized batteries directly from BYD. So they let their biggest rival do all the low-margin hard work. Then they just pop in their own high-margin software and sell the car for a huge profit. They're literally weaponizing their competitors' single biggest advantage against them. So all of this leaves us with the one central question: is BYD the next Toyota? A true industrial giant that's just going to power through these growing pains and dominate the next century? Or is it the next Evergrande, a massive empire that looks incredible on the outside, but is really just built on hidden debt and illusion and is just waiting for a dramatic collapse? When you boil it all down, the entire BYD story really comes down to one thing: speed. This is a company built on moving faster than anyone else in history. But the final question, the one that really matters, is whether a company built on nothing but pure speed can actually outrun the basic laws of physics and finance.